Good evening, everyone. Is this mic on? My name is Yvonne Hunter, and I'm the head of programming for the Appel Salon here at Toronto Public Library. It is a special pleasure to welcome this evening Globe and Mail columnist Johanna Schneller in conversation with Moran. And now, let me introduce you to our host for this evening, Johanna Schneller. Johanna is a Canadian film journalist, television personality, and a freelance celebrity interviewer for publications such as Vanity Fair, GQ, Chatelaine, and Toronto Life. She has also been the film columnist for the Globe and Mail and hosted TV Ontario's weekly Saturday Night at the Movies. Please welcome Johanna Schneller.
Hi, thank you all for coming. Okay, now let's be honest. I have every right to be painfully jealous of Moran. I'm a columnist. I write columns. They're nice. But I do not write for the Times of London, and I was not named Columnist of the Year by the British Press Awards in 2010, as she was, nor was I named Critic and Interviewer of the Year 1 year later in 2011. My columns are not so passionately received that I regularly force Twitter to stop everything else it's doing and talk only about me. I did not write, as Caitlin did, the hilarious and wise book, How to Be a Woman, which was an instant New York Times bestseller. I did not write a debut novel called How to Build a Girl that's just coming out here, but is already so beloved in the UK that I imagine people hold it when they go to sleep at night. I have interviewed some famous people, but I haven't interviewed a rock band while lounging in their bathtub in a soaking petticoat. Lady Gaga has never begged me to accompany her to a sex club in Berlin. And while I fully see the appeal of Ms. Moran's favorite childhood snack, a lump of cheese on a fork, people do not shout my name in the street or cry when they meet me. But as hard as this may be to believe, I'm actually not jealous of Moran. In fact, I just adore her. I am simply glad and grateful she exists, that she's out there writing so brilliantly for all of us. Her feminism is just so strident. Her writing is so freaking bright that if you had seasonal affect disorder, you could go stand next to it and it would cure you. And she is just consistently, thrillingly, euphoria-inducingly funny. Sentence for sentence, Moran is the funniest freaking writer I have ever read. Raise your hands if you agree with me. Obviously, you agree with me. You're here, which means you won the lottery, because the demand for these tickets was so insanely high. The 500 seats here sold out in a day. And so many people were clamoring for more tickets that we're simulcasting to more people in the atrium downstairs. It's actually only the third time we've done that. The other two were from Naomi Klein and Chris Hadfield, the commander of the International Space Station. So that is some company. I don't know, if you people in the atrium, if you make a lot of noise, can we hear you up here? Maybe not. But we know you're down there. And so people in the atrium, welcome. People in this room and people of Earth, please join me in welcoming Moran. So is this thing on? You can hear me? Okay, fantastic. So what was your second favorite snack?
Well, cheese on cheese. That was when we took it further and we invented the snack cheese on cheese, which we had a theme tune for. I don't know if anybody remembers the song Girls on Film by Duran Duran, but we took that and misappropriated the lyrics. So it was cheese on cheese, I'm having a sandwich, cheese on cheese, with cheddar and Leicester. And we would just simply put cheese on cheese.
Cheese on cheese.
Yeah, I mean, we backed out at the idea of having 3 tiers of cheese. It was just simply, we had to stop at 2.
Cheese on cheese. Okay, when did you know you were funny?
It was, the thing is, I'm not the funniest one in my family. Like, kind of my sister Kaz that I write my TV show with, who writes a sitcom about weird fat teenage girls in Wolverhampton, and my brother Jim, who's in the front row there, are the funny ones in the family. I'm actually generally regarded as a bit of a dull buffoon within the context of our family. But I mean, the great thing is, if you live in a very big family, I'm the eldest of 8, and we were brought up in a very small council house in Wolverhampton. And when you're in a sort of very compressed environment with a very small amount of resources, you basically hate each other. And if usually you would try and kill each other, but being funny at each other instead is a very good way of getting through the day without actually destroying your siblings. So it's a survival mechanism, basically. It was what kept us together.
Now, you write a lot about your childhood. Council estates were sort of like our subsidized housing, yes. I presume. And Wolverhampton, how would you characterize Wolverhampton?
Oh, blimey. It's a punchline into jokes in the UK, kind of like someone to go, and I won a week's donkey trekking in Wolverhampton. It's the worst place you can imagine living, and it was where we lived. It's just seen as nothing. It used to be an amazing, proud industrial town, but Margaret Thatcher came along and gutted it. And as a consequence, it was a town that just sort of walked around in shock, sort of looking very unhappy. It had, for a while, a tourist office there to give tourist information, which I can assure you no one's ever gone on holiday to Wolverhampton. And a friend of mine went to do a feature on the amusingness of the idea of there being a tourist information office in Wolverhampton. And apparently he sat there for 20 minutes and 3 people came in and went, "Do you sell chips?" And that was... no one there could believe that it was anything other than a chip shop in disguise.
All tourist information places should sell chips.
Everywhere should sell chips. The only thing wrong with this otherwise brilliant building, which apparently even has a 3D printer, is that it doesn't sell chips as far as I know. That's the one thing, the only thing that doesn't make this building my favourite building in Toronto by a mile.
So, council estate, not a thrilling town, small apartment, lots of siblings. It's not the easiest childhood. Do you feel, like, would you change parts of it if you could, or do you feel that it was all on the road to?
The only thing I would change is learning earlier the calorific value of certain foods. Like, I kind of... Because it was a pre-internet era, so that kind of information wasn't widely kind of disseminated. And so I just kind of went on my gut feeling, literally, about what I thought food should have in the calorie count. And so to me, sort of the duller a food was, clearly the less calories that had, or the more ordinary and easy to buy it was. So for instance, a potato, I figured, couldn't have more than 2 calories in it. Slice of bread, probably 5 tops. And it was on that kind of wonky understanding that I managed to pack on a very impressive kind of 14 stone in the first couple of years of my life. But and then with the cheese as well. But the thing is that, like, I don't regret any of the cheese. Indeed, I have a motto which is, je ne regrette rien. Never regret the cheese. It's a life motto to live by.
It's my motto now. In How to Be a Woman, you sort of go breezily from this childhood to being a rock critic. I imagine there's some steps you skip over there. Can you tell us just a little bit about how that actually happened?
Well, the thing is, there really wasn't. This was a glorious time to be a music journalist or a rock critic in Britain, because we had the music press then. There were sort of 2 weekly music papers, Melody Maker and Enemy, and we had a couple of monthly ones as well. And as soon as I found out there was such a job as a music journalist, which is I saw a copy of The Enemy in our local library and read it, and I sort of read the reviews and went, and people would write quite pretentiously about music in those days. Kind of, it was the time of shoegazing and kind of very experimental kind of rock bands. So people would write things like, "This record sounds like dolphins leaping through a cathedral and shattering the stained glass windows of my mind." And I was just reading that going, I could write that toss. That would be, are people getting paid for this? I could do that. So as soon as I'd read a copy of the music press, I thought, I can do that. And when I wrote, and I just simply wrote, I went to my local library. And that's why it's so lovely being in a library. Libraries made me. Like, I went to the library every day. I made a pact with myself that I would try and read every book in the library. And then when I discovered music, you could order music there as well, which I would bring home on CD and then illegally tape, and then take back to the library. I don't recommend that at all, but it was certainly helpful for me at the time. So I just went to the local library and ordered a couple of albums that they were talking about in The Enemy, and wrote my reviews of them and sent them off to the paper. And they gave me a job literally straight away. It was as easy as that. They just read my 3 reviews and went, "You can have a job." So at the point where I officially became a music journalist at the age of 16, I had in my collection 4 records. All of which were on loan from Central Library in Wolverhampton. So that is... It was a golden era, what can I say? You had no qualifications were needed whatsoever.
Oh yeah, all of us become rock critics at age 16 because Everyone can do that. Now, did you really do interviews in altered states? Would you?
Oh God, yeah. No, well, the thing is that I just believed that kind of, and I was brought up by hippies, so I was sort of led to believe that you could learn something from drugs. As someone who did spend most of their 20s very stoned, trying to make a bong out of a fish tank, and who at one point was interested, experimenting with marijuana so much that I decided in my adult state that I was going to see that if you got a wasp stoned and you made it have a fight with a worm that wasn't stoned, would the worm now be able to beat a stoned wasp? And I can tell you the answer is no. No, a worm has no kind of weapons or ability to fight whatsoever. Of course it doesn't. What's it going to do? Dance the wasp into submission? It has no hands, it has no claws, it has no teeth. The worm was very badly stung by the wasp and died. And in my lysergically altered state, I just thought, I've got to stop with the drugs, man. A worm just died. This is... I've got to cool my boots for a while. I need to go to the countryside and get my head together. This has gone too far. So that was the age of 24, but up until that point, kind of like being a rock critic, I just thought you should try as many drugs as you could get your hands on. And I was just very, very bad at taking drugs. Whenever I took ecstasy, I would just simply fall asleep under a table. Everyone else in my generation would be dancing and singing. I'd just have a very long nap and then kind of wake up with people standing around me going, are you all right? I was like, yes, I've just taken ecstasy. Are you sure? Kind of affects everybody else very differently. Cocaine, I was such an asshat when I took cocaine that the very last time I took cocaine, I was in a bar, a very swanky bar in London, with the band Blur, who I loved very much. And I was sitting on a bar stool and I was explaining to them in between lines why I was the fifth member of Blur. And as I was making my final decisive point, which was, I've heard all of your albums, I fell backwards off the bar stool. And that was the point where I thought, cocaine's not good for me either. I gradually kind of went through all these drugs and found out they were all a complete waste of time. So yes, and that was very much encouraged in those days, kind of, it was just a fun thing to do. We didn't have the internet, we had to make our own. Had we had the internet, I'm sure we wouldn't have been doing cocaine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'll tell you what, those cat gifs, I find them far more stimulating now and far more satisfying than any drug I ever took. 100 most important cat pictures of all time ever. They're not lying. They really are. They are. They are awesome pictures.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure nobody does cocaine anymore now that the internet's been So what was your worst interview disaster? Have you had like an epic fail?
Oh, God, yes. I interviewed Paul McCartney, and Paul I find difficult to deal with in my mind because I was brought up on the Beatles, and for a very long time I kind of wanted him to be my dad. And then adolescence kicked in, and then I wanted to have sex with him, and I had these two thoughts in my head at the same time. And that was very confusing. And then, so I was probably not the right person to be put into an interview situation with him. And I was really premenstrual at the time. The thing is, when people talk about being a journalist, they never kind of mention that you can go in there very hormonal and really screw things up. Kind of, just sort of like, I recommend hugely if you're a massive fan of the Beatles and you, on one hand, want Paul McCartney to be your dad, and on the other hand, you want to have hot sex with him, don't then go in there on a massive menstrual wiggy freak out and interview him, because you'll do what I did, which was, first of all, as soon as I walked in the room, burst into tears. and then asking the question, which I still aver is a very clever question, which was, Paul McCartney, if, heaven forfend, you should ever get your face horrifically mashed up in a terrible car crash, would you, Paul McCartney, rebuild your face as that of Paul McCartney, or would you choose perchance another face? Now, that is a really clever question, because it's basically saying, do you still want to be famous? Would you now like anonymity? You spent all this time being Paul McCartney. Everywhere you go, people freak out, like the person who's interviewing you now, crying. Would you like one day to be treated normally? Would you like to find out what it's like to be anonymous again and walk around and not be observed and stuff? That is a clever question, Paul McCartney. But Paul McCartney, that was a clever question. Paul McCartney did not think it was a clever question. Paul McCartney went, oh, that's a horrible question. Oh, I don't like to think about myself dying in a car crash. Oh no, you silly girl. Oh, I'm not going to think about that. And was visibly quite touchy with me, at which point my heart broke. And I don't think I've interviewed anyone since then, actually. Just thought, I fucked it up with the Beatles. This is really bad. Yeah, that was awful.
Was that your first and last question to Paul McCartney? Like,
I'd managed to
that was
ask
your
3
opener?
others, but yeah, it was a very truncated and poor interview. I was kind of, it was a bad one. But then I am a very bad interviewer. It was endlessly amusing to me that I won Interviewer of the Year. Like, when I went to interview Lady Gaga, I had no questions to ask her. We just she just basically detected I was a booze hound within about 10 seconds of interviewing her, and just went, should we go to a sex club afterwards and get really drunk? I was like, yay! You don't need to be asking any questions at that point. I went and interviewed, is Benedict Cumberbatch big here? Is he kind of like, yeah, okay, that's all. Send him on. He's big everywhere. Seen the news.
I don't know what you mean.
Anyway, moving on. I went to his parents' house to interview him, and we got very, very drunk. And at this point, you would think it would be an amazing chance to ask him really personal questions, especially as previously his mum had taken him into one corner and went, get him a bird, he's single, get him married, get him a bird right now. Yes, surely I will, Mrs. Cumberbatch. I'm on that right away. That's why I'm here. So he's horrendously wankered in his house, and we're both just rolling around drinking wine. And at that point, I could have asked him any question. I could have, anything personal. I'm sure he would have told me. And the only question I asked him was, can you do your impression of Sherlock Holmes, please? I mean, that's not even the right term. He's an actor. Can you act Sherlock Holmes? Do your impression. He did. He spent 5 minutes flumping around being Sherlock Holmes, and then I went, can you be the dragon from The Hobbit, which he does the voice of? He spent 10 minutes being a dragon. So it was fucking awesome. I was playing him like a karaoke machine. It was amazing.
I am now going to drink a lot more before I go into interviews. I've missed the entire thing. Now, when you write, your column and various criticism that you still do, I am in awe of how you do it, because you just sort of merrily shred people to bits, but you do it like in a friendly way, like you're pointing out spinach in their teeth and you're just helping them out. You know what I mean? How did you hit upon that persona, that voice?
Fear of being punched in the face, trying to temper anything that I say in a kind of lovely, fluffy way. I spend most of my time trying not to be controversial. 90% of my energy is put into, because I write about socialism and welfare and mental illness and feminism and menstruation and body dysmorphia and abortion and, progress and technology and revolution and kind of things that can have people going, you're just trying to be controversial. I never want anyone to say I'm being controversial. I don't want to cause trouble. I simply want to change the world. But if you write about these things emotionally or angrily, people will not listen to what you're saying. They will just respond to the anger and emotion in your voice. And this is something I've really noticed for online activists. If there was any advice I want to give anybody here, if you're an online activist, this is why these things descend into arguments and stuff. You are communicating these things because you are angry. If you want to change the world, if you're arguing against racism or sexism or transphobia, it's because you're angry and you're scared because you've experienced all these horrible things. But if you turn it into therapy and you become angry and you become emotional, people 9 times out of 10 will not hear what you're saying, the actual facts that you're saying, the changes that you're suggesting. They will just hear your anger and emotion and they will argue back with you. They will become emotional as well. And there's so many times I've seen so many conversations that could have been incredibly valuable, which just ended up being 2 groups of very hurt, angry people being hurt and angry at each other. And that's why humor's so important. And that's why generally I kind of won't take part in a debate that you can't bring humor into, because humor instantly calms everything down, reminds everybody kind of, we're playing with words here. We're not using with weapons, we're not throwing things at each other. Let's cool everything down and keep playing with language and ideas. And so that's the main thing that I try and do in my writing. And I think the other thing that I try and do is try and make anybody who reads it feel that they could write too. I see a lot of writers who kind of use their talent and power to kind of make themselves separate or to give themselves power. And the way that I try and write is to try and share. So that's, thank you. One angry person go, yes! I was once screwed over by a very powerful, evil writer. There are many of them.
Yes.
I'm not saying if you've got some information and you want to change the world and stuff, kind of like, you want to be sharing that out there and trying to be a conduit and trying to be a place that information can pass through. And that's why I love Twitter. And that's why sort of like online activism is my baby, and I love it so much, and I see so much good work being done out there, because you just can pass on information so quickly in a way that we've never been able to before in history. And it's meaning that we're cycling very fast through a lot of ideas and sorting out a lot of stuff that we've needed to sort out, for tens of thousands of years. And I've always thought that, my main thing is women, but anyone who comes from an oppressed minority, all we've ever needed is a space. Just somewhere where no one else is telling us what to do and no one's built anything around us before, and we just need a space where we can talk and communicate with each other and we can sort things out. And that's what the internet is for the first time ever. There's infinite space on the internet, and we can therefore, that's our newfound land. That's our new planet. That's our new galaxy that we found, and that's, it's very important to not get scared off it, to keep maintaining your rules on there, doing what you want to do on there, and post as many funny pictures of cats as possible, because it calms everything down. There's also an amazing picture of Bruce Springsteen, the young Bruce Springsteen, which I hugely recommend. A couple of people know that picture. Just Google Caitlin Moran Twitter Bruce Springsteen picture. Do it now if you have your smartphones out. It will not disappoint you. It's a very inspiring picture for me. He's topless, and the thing is, you're looking at the young boss going, God, he has beautiful man tits. And then, the third or fourth time you look at it, you realise there's something going on in his trousers that can only be the movement of a massive badger. There's something... It's just all going on down there.
I wonder if he would change his face if he was in a terrible car accident.
Bruce, would you change your crotch if it was in a terrible car accident?
Terrible.
That would be the question I'll ask you.
If it was MASH.
Yeah.
Now, is anything off limits in your writing? Do you draw any lines for yourself?
I won't write about my children's personal lives. Things they say that, but if it was something really funny, I would. But I'd like to think that I believe that because I'm a good parent and a good mother, but it's actually because I respect that their life is their future copy, and as a copyright issue, I don't want to kind of trample on their lives. But I think it's very important that they kind of be able to speak, and so I don't really talk about my husband unless it's a funny conversation. But kind of the actual mechanics and day-to-day thing of my children's life and my husband's life, I leave. But anything else, no. And I've never seen a taboo that I didn't want to just go in there and just bust and just kind of hit with spoons and kind of. And whenever you see anything you're not supposed to talk about, that's the shit that you need to pull out into the light and deal with as much, shine searchlights on it and make people stand around and go, right, we're talking about this now. And that was why I wanted to talk about sex so much in the book. Because, particularly for teenage girls, kind of like this sort of like, teenage sexuality is, we're kind of scared of teenage girls being horny. We'd kind of rather they just turned off their sexuality altogether and certainly not discuss it. And we don't want other people talking about teenage girls' sexuality. And yet, the world is full of, over-sexualized teenage girls in pornography and in all the imagery we see. So it's okay to look at it, it's okay for it to be out there, it's okay for it to be commercialized and commodified, but we can't talk about it and discuss it in books. Girls can't be honest about their experiences, particularly masturbation. That was why, I opened the book with a wank. That's kind of, our big news show in the UK is called Newsnight, and they came out with a big piece about Syria, and the presenter came over and went, so can you start your book with the character masturbating? Why is that? And I said, well, it's just a very relaxing way to kick things off, isn't it? And then I realised as I said that, it made it seem like I was now about to start masturbating on Newsnight, and that was quite bad.
In fact, I think I will right now.
Let's all have a wank. But I think it's very important. If teenage girls, I always say to teenage girls, if you've got these three hobbies, you can't go far wrong. 1, long country walks. It's important to get out there, get a bit of fresh air in your lungs. 2, masturbation. 3, the revolution. With those 3 things, you will do quite well. Because that itchy feeling that girls get inside them, that kind of self-loathing thing where girls are kind of like, oh, I'm too fat, my hair's wrong, I don't know what to wear, I don't know what to say, I can't speak up in meetings and stuff. We're led to believe that it is self-loathing. It's not. It's knowing that you're wrong. You are in a world that is not built for you and was not built for you, was not designed around you. And it will be, because we're going to go out there and change it. You can talk to each successive generation and they know how they're going to change these, as we're doing now. But the uncomfortable feeling is that this world doesn't work for you. It's not been built around you and your needs. Everything to do specifically with being a woman is seen as not normal. The book How to Be a Woman, every single chapter in there is something that women have to keep secret, and it's all the things that make you different from men. It's masturbation, menstruation, abortion, eating disorders, fantasy love affairs, whether you want to have a child, whether you don't want to have a child, sexism in the workplace. They're all the things that we have to just deal with and pretend that we cover them up, and we use all our energy suppressing these things, and these are the things that make us feel not normal, because to be normal is to be a man. And it's not hating on the men. You've built an amazing world and love you to bits. But, you know, it's very clearly a world not built around women, because the sheer fact that menstrual blood is still seen as wrong, and something we can never talk about. We never see it in a film. We never see it on television. It's never a plot driver. Nothing ever happens. You never see it in a movie, you know. But I've seen millions of gallons of the other kind of blood, where people are having their heads blasted off, or their legs cut off, or kind of torture porn, rather than their skin pulled off, and that blood's seen as fine. You can see that in trailers. Kids are watching that, and yet they've never seen, you know, a woman like kind of going, oh, for God's sake, look at my sheets. And that's, you know, not only is that the normal blood, but this entire world would be empty without it. It is literally the lifeblood of our planet. If women weren't bleeding every month, this would be an empty room and an empty stage. And yet, you know, when a girl starts her period, most little girls, the first thing they feel is shame. I've got to hide this. And I keep sort of trying to explain to men, like, kind of like, when you know, when you're a child and you become a woman because you start your periods, it's kind of presumed that we can deal with it okay. I'm 39 and every month I'm still like, what? Really? This shit again? When you're a little girl and you start your period, I keep saying to men, imagine if you're a boy and you're just playing with all your, like, your cars and your trucks and your trains and stuff, and one day someone dumps a load of gravy in your pants. And that's going to happen every month without much warning for the next 30 years. You'd be furious. You know, women aren't any more geared up to deal with that level of heinous bullshit than men are, and yet we do. It's kind of... It's being a woman, the reason we feel weird is because it is not normal to be a woman at the moment, but that's the next thing we need to work on, feeling normal. Control of the word normal, I think, is a key thing at the moment.
I'm not sure what to say. Where did your feminism come from? Like, how was this born in you?
Well, quite a lot of it was my brother Jimmy's fault. There were... Put your hand up, Jimmy, put your hand up. So people can look at you, yes. Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yes, I'm the eldest of 8, and there were 5 girls and 3 boys, and the girls were given the bullshit jobs like cooking and cleaning, and changing nappies and looking after the children, and the boys only had one type of job, and that was emptying the bins. It's an easy job. It's done. I mean, it's just literally emptying a bin, just done. It's not like, you know, cooking food for like 10 people. And it was just very clear to me that our parents were quite sexist in their divisioning of the jobs. Boys were being given sort of simple boys. Housework was not seen as a boy's job, and housework was seen as a girl's job. So that was basically a sort of furious desire to prove that things weren't fair. Was the sort of start of sort of my feminism was emotional first, and then I found the word feminism. I was like, yes. And we must always keep using the word feminism. It's very important. Don't ever go girl power or equalism or anything like that. That is, you know, by all means enjoy the wordplay and the fun with semantics, but feminism is still the only word that we've ever had that means making women equal to men. That is a specific task with some specific parameters, and that's the only word that we've ever had to deal with that. And you know, the reason that I wrote How to Be a Woman was I just got bored of being in bars with younger women, kind of, and they'd go, I'm not a feminist, and I go, right, okay, you are allowed to say that if this is what your life has been like. You were not educated equally to boys. You did not have the chance to go to university. When you got married, you became your husband's property, and so were your children. If you were ever sexually assaulted or raped, that was not considered a crime, and the person who did that to you was not prosecuted. When you had a job, which you had to give up when you were married, the wages that you earned were either given to your parents or to your husband when you were married. You're not allowed to own property in your own name, and you're not allowed to vote. Okay, that is the life that you've led. It is absolutely fair enough to say that you are not a feminist. I will absolutely doff my hat to you. But if, on the other hand, you've lived the life in complete reverse to that, the reason that you lived that life is because people who called themselves feminists came before you and they sorted your shit out for you. They are, every woman, almost without exception, every woman in the first world lives a feminist life because of the feminists who came before her and allowed her to live that feminist life. And it's the only time I ever get tetchy. Whenever a woman says to me, I'm not a feminist, my reply is always, get a dictionary, bitch. Yes, you are.
Now, I want to ask you about another piece of phraseology. You know, I've read the clippings of your, reviews, and people are constantly calling you a bad girl journalist. And, find it a little bit infuriating. Like, yeah, I'm not sure people would say bad. I just want to know how you feel about it. Have you embraced that? Do we reject that? What's your response?
Oh, no, it's a bit silly. I'm a 39-year-old mother of two. I'm not in any way a bad girl. I'm usually in bed by 10 o'clock. Once a week, that's not the case, and I'm up till dawn doing my Amy Winehouse impression standing on top of patio furniture. But the rest of the time, I lead a sober life. Well, it's just... No, I mean, I don't like the idea of being bad. I've always just wanted to be a smashing lovely. My big childhood heroes were like Anne of Green Gables. You know, she was a cheerful girl who just wanted to do good. That's sort of like Annie in the film Annie, kind of like, you know, Jane Eyre, kind of like, you know, it was definitely good girls who wanted to change the world. So, you know, I'm not bad. You know, it's weird what you would think bad is. You know, it's bad that I talk about recognizing the joy in your life and living every day and enjoying it, and whilst at the same time trying not to be a dick to everybody in the world and pushing for equality, and these are the only things that I say. You know, I never advocate hurting anybody or wearing shoes that are not flattering. I would say I do generally use my powers for good instead of evil, so I'm not bad, no.
No.
Don't call me bad!
I wouldn't have thought so. There's also the terminology of like woman writer, which a lot of people reject, fair enough. You know, they want to erase that distinction. But how do you feel about that?
Oh God, I mean, I don't know if I'm getting it in other countries, but I just don't get it in the UK anymore, kind of like, no. People stopped noticing that I was a woman quite a long time ago now, which is really good. I think also as well, kind of like, I mean, it's a very useful thing to not care. That was the thing, kind of, it's about realizing the voices in your head. Like, generally the voice that you have in your head is probably the one that your parents used to talk to you. And then in your teenage years, you may get to a point where you kind of consciously realize the voice that's in your head, sort of narrating your life, is your parents, and you may wish to reject that and get a new voice. And the first voice that I consciously used as the voice in my head was that of Courtney Love from the band Hole. Because she just didn't care, and I so needed a girl that didn't care. She, you know, she's brilliantly widely read. She can quote all these fantastic things, but she would just get on stage and she just didn't care. And I needed a girl who didn't care at that age. And these days, I kind of appear to have the voice of, I think, Mrs. Doubtfire in my head. Just kind of goes like, "Oh, off to bed with you now. You look tired. Time to go to bed." It's a very bad impression of Mrs. Doubtfire. So yes, but always being conscious of who the voices are in your head is a very key thing. It can liberate you once you realize that you can just start being nice to yourself in your head.
Yeah. One of the great things in your novel is, you know, you explore that kind of place where girls are, where they're willing to put themselves in uncomfortable positions, and they're willing to be. They're kind of exploring the limits of being miserable and figuring out who they are, and so what's the value of putting oneself in, not harm's way, obviously, but just uncomfortableness's way?
Well, I mean, a big thing in the book is she basically, one of the things I wanted to do was write about female teenage sexuality, frankly, because, you know, we live in a world of, you know, I think my generation has taken quite a long time to realize what the younger generation is doing. We're still a bit kind of like, teenagers and sex. They're on their mobile phones watching, you know, just animal sex, animal porn, kind of 2 girls, 1 cup, like this weird, freaky stuff. They're watching goldfish being shot out of orifices. They're kind of like, this is the first thing they Google and search for, and this is how they're getting their sex education. Like, they are seeing things we can't imagine. And so I wanted to write a book that kind of like, that would hopefully get there before porn. I wanted to, for a kind of an older, wiser auntie to write a very explicit book that wasn't just about sex, but about masturbation as well, because I think it's very key for girls to know, I can sort it out myself. Like, kind of, I don't have to wait around for someone else to sort this out. I can simply make myself happy, and it hasn't got any calories in, and I can do it pretty much anywhere. I'll just go and do it in a wardrobe now. It's a very flexible hobby. So I wanted to write, frankly, about female sexuality, to get in there for this generation that are in some ways being really brutalized by, you know, in their sexuality and their sexual hinterlands by the sort of very explicit pornography that's out there at the moment. So the idea of writing a book about that. So basically, I wanted to reclaim the word slag, reclaim the word slut. And I realized that would take quite a long time. So instead, I came up with 2 new words. The first one is lady sex pirate. And the second one is swashbuckler. And And people are going, why have you written about a teenage girl who goes out and sleeps around so much? Like, aren't you worried that you're going to influence teenage girls to go out there and sleep around more? And I was like, how could anybody possibly influence teenage girls to go out there and sleep around more than they will? That is what they will do. That is what I did. That is what all my friends did. That is what you do. Like, teenage girls are horny. Let us acknowledge that and let them have a book or some role models or some advice in their heads that they can have where they can just go, okay, the things that I need to remember as I go out there in the world is to remember my humanity and to keep myself safe, and to keep my sense of humor about these things. And, in the book, I make it very explicit that if you're a teenage girl going out there and sleeping around, most of the sex that you have is going to be terrible. It's going to be absolutely appalling. But what you have to understand that life breaks down into two categories of experience. The first one is amazing experiences. And the second one is awful experiences, which later turn into amazing anecdotes. And that is the majority of teenage sex that girls will have. That is, and as anyone of my age knows, when they are in the pub with their female friends, those are the stories that you tell each other. The kind of, you won't believe what happened, it fell off. I'd never seen one that colour. It's all those stories. Indeed, actually, the passage, I wanted to give my advice for that. This isn't a story. I have to make it clear that this story did not happen to me. This is the story of a friend of mine who had sex with a man whose penis was, as she put it, medically inadvisable, because it was so very large. So I wrote, there's a very long bit, but I'll just do the bit, which is where she's now having sex with a man called Big Cock Al. You may be able to tell everything about him from that. She's having sex with Big Cock Al. While I'm having sex with him, I find time to compile in my head a little list of hints and tips for a future putative help sheet, which would be entitled, Ladies, How You Too Can Deal with an Unfeasibly Large Penis by a Friend. Tip number 1. When in the missionary position, place your palms flat on his chest and brace with your arms. This limits thrust depth. It also, pleasingly, pushes your tits together, so it's a kind of good tip for looking hot and taking selfies. Tip number 2. In doggy, you can subtly but essentially keep crawling away from the penis. And making it impossible to get more than the first 5 inches inside. During our 10-minute session, I managed to make a whole circuit of the bed on all fours. As Al ardently pursues me, kneeling. A speeded-up film of this would make Al look like Lawrence of Arabia. Very slowly riding his camel, me, around a putative bedsit fuck arena. And then all of the next chapter, unsurprisingly, is about cystitis. I have to say, I got so much pleasure in watching my brother's agonized face as I acted out both missionary and doggy in front of him. Does it remind you of charades from last Christmas? And I won.
So, again, it's very hard to follow that with a question, but I will. So you mentioned body dysmorphia and women's bodies. Like, what do you want girls to know about their bodies? What is your essential message of good that you want to?
Oh, well, I do this thing, because I've been doing stand-up in the UK for the last tour. I just decided to see if I could be a stand-up comedian, and did this stand-up tour, which was amazing. And I kind of basically themed it around the kind of lessons that I've learned in my life. And it starts off, I sort of talk about that thing about having voices in your head, and Courtney Love being the big voice in my head, and how, I started off as a very scared teenage girl, very fat, very scared, completely self-loathing teenage girl. And sort of through the years of kind of very carefully making sure that the voices in my head were on my side and were nice to me, and through sort of learning to, there's no comeback if you don't give a fuck. This is something that women need to know, kind of like, if you stop caring what people think, not going around and being a dick and being rude and being horrible and shouting at people, but when you genuinely don't care what people think, there's no comeback, nothing happens. They don't come and punish you and go, you're not a nice lady anymore. You can just simply carry on living a very free and happy life. And to the point where, and I realized this when How to Be a Woman, the first book, was coming out, and I went into my publishers, and it was a big meeting, big boardroom meeting, and they were like, we've got some ideas for what the cover should be. And I went, it just so happens I have too. And they said, what's that? Looking quite scared. And I said, well, I've just invented this thing called my feminist smile. And they looked even more scared, and they went, well, what's that? And I said, okay, well, it's this. It's basically that I'm going to draw eyes on my tits like this, on my brow. And then I'm going to draw a nose here, and then I'm going to manipulate my belly fat into a big smiley mouth. And that will be my feminist smile. Flop that back in there, and I would do this on stage to illustrate just kind of like how reconciled with my body I am now and how I just don't give a fuck, like kind of, and I'd get girls coming up afterwards crying, going, when you flopped your belly out, I started crying, and I was like, to be fair, I did too, but probably for slightly more reasons. And they're like, no, like kind of, I couldn't work out why it was so emotional, and I suddenly realized that every time I've ever seen a belly like yours, it's in like a tabloid or a gossip magazine, and it's on a woman, and there's a huge circle of shame around it, and with arrows kind of pointing to go, she fucked up, feel bad, feel bad. And you were there, and you didn't care, and you were flopping it around and making it into a big smiley face, and like kind of, and she would, then they just like kind of, it made me feel really emotional, and we would all hug, and then I would make them get their bellies out, and we would do sort of like smiley selfies together, and it was a very liberating thing. So it's that kind of, and this is why I love Lena Dunham, you know, kind of like, you know, every time Lena Dunham gets her little adorable belly out, it's like a revolutionary song to me, just kind of like, she's going to just bring up a generation of girls to go, fuck it, I'm going to flop my belly out and pull my tights right up like this and wear clothes that don't quite fit, and I'm going to be awesome. I'm going to be one of the most talked about and powerful women in my industry at my age, and I'm going to blow people's minds, like kind of, I love her to bits. And also I think she's the first person to really tackle internet pornography as well, because hers is the first generation to be brought up post that free internet hardcore explicit pornography, and her characters are there trying to act out that explicit hardcore pornography, and you see how wrong it goes. It hurts. They fall off the sofa. When she has to pretend to be like a girl in a little paedophile fantasy, she goes too far and goes, I've got my little satchel, and Adam's like, no, that's horrible, stop it, stop it. And like, and that's, of course, that's what it's like, and I'm so glad that my daughters have got someone like her on their side, telling them this is what it's like, a girl like that saying this is what it's like.
And you'll be interviewing her on stage in London when she comes on her book tour, right?
Yes,
That's
yeah.
Perfect synchronicity. I think the whole world may explode.
Yes, I'm going to squeeze her belly like this.
How is that not the cover of the book? I would like to really put your publisher to task there.
Oh, in the future, don't worry about that.
It's interesting, you know, that you mentioned Lena, because I've just read her book as well, and, you know, she's encouraging people to be brave by sort of admitting her fears and her anxieties and stuff like that. And I sort of feel like you're doing the same thing in the kind of reverse way, like you're just encouraging them sort of not to be fearful in the first place. Is that fair enough?
Well, you need to, I mean, the thing is with any kind of, you need a consciousness raising, so everybody needs to admit their fears, kind of, you know, this is important for girls to talk about what makes them scared, but then you kind of want to have a structure around it to go, okay, how do I get past the point of being scared? There's no point in endlessly confessing. You don't, you know, it's not ideal. You don't want to be endlessly confessing for your entire life. I'm scared, I'm still scared, I still haven't dealt with this stuff, I still care, I'm still scared. So the idea is you say what you're scared of, and then it's like, okay, how do I move forward? And there's a million ways that you can do that, checking the voices in your head, kind of like changing the people that are around you, joining different groups, kind of, you know, just studiedly telling the part of your brain that cares to shut up is a great one. I just kind of, every time I think that I'm about to start feeling self-conscious about something, I just go, shut up, brain, shut up, and just carry on. But yeah, I mean, kind of, it's all about progress, really. I like sharing, but it's like, okay, we've shared, now what are we going to do? Clearly, we need to change things. There's a million things. And I think one of the things that, you know, I love most is sort of like when people realize that kind of everybody can change the world in a tiny way. It would just be the tiniest thing, but that's what we're here to do. And the only way the world ever does change is by everybody, you know, you often see people going, well, you don't have all the answers to everything. This is one of the things that's often sort of like derailed activism. It's kind of like someone comes along with some ideas for some stuff over here, and they're like, yeah, but you haven't got all the answers to this stuff over here as well, so why are we even listening to you, you asshat? And it's like, well, everybody's got a little job that they'll do. These people will do this bit, and these people will do that bit. We've got to stop waiting for superheroes to come along in any form of activism and kind of go, this is the one true leader, and this one book or this one dissertation or whatever it is they've done is the Bible, and we will follow them. We've been waiting, we keep expecting that to happen in feminism, that someone will come along who can lead 3.3 billion women in the world. Well, of course they can't. And one of the rules for working out if some sexism is happening is to go, well, does this apply to the boys? Are the boys doing this? And the boys are not waiting for one man to come along in a movement that is equal to feminism and solve all of their man's problems. We would never expect that to happen in a million years. So we've got to remember that feminism is, rather than waiting for a superhero, is a patchwork quilt. And we all sew our little bit and stitch it together. We all do it collectively. And the other thing we need to remember about feminism is it's not a set of rules, it's a set of tools. When I went on my tour, we had merchandise, which was brilliant. I designed merchandise, feminist necklaces and tea towels and T-shirts. And we gave all the profits to a women's refuge. So it was just fucking awesome and sexy and fucking liberal and right on. And the tea towels had the 5 rules of feminism. And the 5 rules of feminism, if you do not know them, are this. Rule number 1, women are equal to men. Rule number 2, don't be a dick. Rule number 3, there are no more rules. That's it. Feminism is just simply the belief that women are equal to men, and just, remember not to be a dick in your feminism. And then after that, it's up to you to invent it. Feminism is only ever going to be as strong as who's involved in it and who's inventing it. At the point where, thousands of women feel that they are creating and inventing their own feminism, feminism is strong. At the point where we think there's only 1 or 2 people who are in charge of feminism or waiting for their next book to come out or for their next lecture tour, feminism will die. It is what you make it. It is the people in it. It is a popular movement that needs mass and ideas and creativity and energy. And the reason that I love it, my feminism is cultural rather than political. I believe in politics, I believe in legislation, I believe in change, I believe in marching, I believe in all these things. But culture just works so much quicker. You can go on one march, and that will last a couple of hours, but culture marches forever. You make a film, you make a movie, you make a book, you write a poem, you have a blog. It's out there marching every day for you. And it affects things so quickly. And the big sort of comparison that I have in the UK is in the UK when we rebooted Doctor Who over there. Do you watch Doctor Who? Yes, it was written by an amazing man and one of my friends, Russell T. Davies. And yes, woo! Oh, the nerds are here. Hello, darling. Woo! We will hug later. And when I was a kid, the worst thing you could say to a boy in the playground was, you gay lord, you bender, you queer. To call someone gay, worst insult you could give to a boy. Russell T. Davies, a gay man, takes over Doctor Who, introduces a bisexual superhero called Captain Jack Harkness, who's basically like a Han Solo that goes not both ways, but always, so clearly even better than Han Solo. And he kisses the Doctor on tea time, BBC, prime time, on a kids' show. Not only was there not a single letter of complaint, but on the Monday morning when I went into my kids' school, there were boys in the playground fighting over who would play the role of Captain Jack Harkness in the game they were playing. Now again, we need legislation and we need change. The equal marriage law that we just had recently passed in our country was one of the most beautiful things that's ever happened to me and my friends. But no equalities minister in the world can make 10-year-old boys want to play a bisexual character in the playground. That's something only culture can do. There's something, sometimes you don't want to argue what's right and what's wrong, you just make it cool instead. And that is the shortcut. And that is the end of my thought.
That's fantastic. So, I agree that this is something we must talk about all the time. Why are we still talking about this? Why are we constantly redrawing the world for women?
Well, because we're still at the beginning. I think there was this kind of misbelief that kind of at the point where women got the vote, kind of like, boom, suddenly we would be equal and we would have the female Einstein and the female Mozart and the female Beatles, and women would rule 50% of the world and would form their own companies and build their own armies and empires. And that's not what happened, because women are still working out what they are. There's such a complete absence, well, not a total absence, but compared to what we know of men and the way that men have been able to shape their lives and talk about themselves and share their experiences and pass their experiences on through history. There's so little of what women are all the way through history. We were crushed, we were treated like animals, we were not believed to be equal. And it's so recently that we've been accepted as humans that we're only at the very beginning of working out what women are, what we want to do, what things are we going to do the same as men did, and what things are we going to change. What ways are we going to work together? One of the things that I'm most excited about in feminism is that if women do truly become equal to men, how will that change men? This is, we're all going to be stepping up together, and then when the men change, how will the women change to cope with these newly brilliant, enlightened men that are dealing with these enlightened women? Like, it's a no-lose situation. The more, that's the great thing about equality. When you're constantly raising people up all the way through, the world clearly, visibly becomes a better place in quantum time. But this whole kind of feeling that kind of we should have sorted feminism out 30 years ago, and this is kind of like, oh God, women are being so inefficient. Why are we not ruling the world? It's like we're still working out what we are. We're still having to really carefully piece together how we're going to operate things. What are our moral frameworks? How are we going to attack things differently? And it's so, that the column I'm writing today, it's so insidious. Like something like, I remember reading an interview with Yoko Ono 30 years ago where she was just sort of casting her eye over things. And she was just going, for instance, the news. Why does the news always end with a sports roundup? She was like, don't you find that's just weird to me? She was just kind of like, we watch all this stuff about war and death and battle and in a male-dominated world, and then we go to sport, which is a male-dominated sport, which is again about sort of battle and power and winners and losers. She was like, I know it's something that has millions of fans and supporters and pumps billions of dollars into the economy, but so does the fashion industry. So does the pop industry. Would it be so weird if at the end of the news you kind of you had someone reading the new Donna Tartt book and a beautiful paragraph that she'd written about that encapsulated love, or kind of, Pharrell Williams' Happy comes out and the whole world is dancing. Is that any less of a news event than a sports team winning a game? Like kind of, when you start talking about how you're going to change the world and reordering it and the things that we assume are normal, but, just little instances like that, I think, yeah, it's going to take a long time for us, I hope we never stop talking about what women are and how we want to change the world. I think it will constantly change. I certainly intend to write a lot more books about it. I have a mortgage to pay. I hope, frankly, I hope we bitches never sort our shit out. I can keep milking this stuff for years. I might start putting things in there secretly that'll screw us up more when we really, and then I'll come and cure it later on, like the pharmaceutical industry does it. That's what, maybe I will do that.
Can you feel your success? Are you aware of what your impact is? Do you have a sense of how
Well, I think in any
other
other scenario, if someone stood up on stage and showed you a bra on which they'd crudely drawn some eyes and then flapped their belly at people, you'd be carted off to a mental hospital. So I have to presume I have some success in that was applauded rather than taken as a pitiful cry for help. It took me, of course, I never really leave the house. I just sit at home and write every day. I kind of write about 15,000, 20,000 words a week, and then I hang out with my kids. That's kind of all I do. So I don't really go out. Now when I go out now, kind of, I'll be stopped, 5, 6 times as I go down the street. And if I'm in a place where alcohol is served, basically any woman with eyeliner who's had 2 drinks will come up to me and say, "Thanks for all the wanking," and I'll go, "That was my pleasure." But the thing I like about it most is like if you have power and you have success, I just use that as a mandate to push further, because you can just be even more frank and even more truthful and kind of even more bold in your suggestions for what the future is if you've got some people behind you. That's what I like about, that's the thing I've enjoyed the most.
Because there are perceived boundaries in women's storytelling, aren't there? Like there are places we're not supposed to go.
And the great thing is, this is the other thing as well, like if anybody here wants to be a writer or you have any interest in the arts whatsoever, like kind of what you've got to do, whenever you see a taboo, rather than going, "Oh, that's a place I mustn't go," you go, "Oh my God, this is fields and fields worth of material that no one else is for some weird reason touching." Like kind of almost to the point where you just sort of did someone who wanted to preserve all this material for themselves kind of pretend, it's like those episodes of Scooby-Doo where they're like, "Don't go in the castle because there's a ghost there," and it's just the caretaker with a sheet over him, kind of like, there's no reason why the mystery team can't be in that castle. There's no reason why we can't be writing about, masturbation and menstruation and abortion and kind of, our true feelings about love and our children. We know whenever you see a taboo, then that's just, it's a whole world that no one else has talked about, and we have no need to be scared of this now. Again, you just look for 20 seconds at what is online, what our 10-year-old children are watching and laughing over, kind of, they are watching the most explicit stuff. The idea that we as adults can't write books or make films or make TV shows or have conversations or write blogs about kind of, our true feelings and experiences is completely insane, because no one else in the world, the next generation do not have these rules and do not have these taboos. We need to step up. Let's learn a bit of bravery from our children. But if they do ask you if you want to see the video, 2 Girls, 1 Cup, say no.
I'm going to throw it open to questions from you guys in a minute, so people should begin lining up at the microphones if you have something that you want to ask Caitlin. And I will ask you one last question.
Can I specify there are no maths questions? Very bad on the maths.
Questions at your own peril.
Literally nothing going on there.
So, you know, you've talked sort of about what the kind of the usefulness is of telling the truth to us in the world. What, for you, personally, are the pleasures and terrors of being known? Like, what do you like about it personally, being so open and going to all those places?
Oh, apart from the money? No, I just can't. I like, when I was a kid, okay, so we didn't go to school, we were taught at home. And so you know, that could have been an amazing thing. You know, our parents could have been the kind of parents who were like, and I'll take you on a country walk, and kind of I'll point out the names of the trees and the odd geology that we're walking over and the history of this area, and that is the way that I will be a home educator. They didn't do that. They just left us in our front room with a video player, and we just simply watched classic MGM musicals whilst eating cheese. And in many ways, that was a great education. But by the age of 11, I was kind of like, I need to sort this out myself. And I would go to our local library every day. And, you know, I just read everything. I read as widely as possible. Autobiographies. The great thing about an autobiography, any book worth its salt, the author will have put everything they know at that point in that book. So when you read it, you eat their life. You've become one whole person cleverer. So by the time you've read 50 books, it's like you've lived 50 lifetimes. You suddenly have all these experiences. There's so many things I could describe to you. You know, I think I know what it's like to walk through the Atacama Desert on a camel, because I read Rosie Swale's book about that. I think I know what it's like to be the headmistress of a 19th century girls' boarding school in Yorkshire, because I've read a book about that, kind of like all these experiences. And so when I write books, and the books I loved were the ones where you're just like, yeah, someone's told me something, I've got something out of that. There was a point to that book. So many books you're just like, oh, someone's just enjoying writing. Kind of, that's fine. But like, you know, and sometimes there's some very beautiful books, but it's like, no, I want to get something, I want to learn something, I want to have gone somewhere, I want to feel like I've eaten a whole person when I've read that book. So that's what I want to put in my books. Everything I know at that point about that subject, I want to put in it. And when I was writing this book, I thought I was generally writing it to girls out there. Kind of generally to girls, and, you know, maybe particularly teenage girls, and, you know, older girls to remember what this shit was like, and younger girls to go, here's what's coming at you. And then I realized at the end that I wasn't writing it for all those girls out there I thought I was writing it for. I was writing that book to me when I was 16. Everything in that book is what I just wish Johanna told me. And yeah, that's the feeling of satisfaction when you've written something. You're like, yeah, that is all the things I know and think right now. Press send.
Well, thank you so much for pressing send. So we'll let them ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so
Hello,
everybody's lining up,
fellow
so-
English woman.
Hello.
Hello.
Let's have tea.
Okay, in Camden Town. Am I too close to here? I want to say that I've loved everything that you've said. The one thing you haven't addressed and you haven't talked about is...
Maths.
Well, maths, okay, there are a lot of things, but
Good,
one
sorry,
of the
good.
fundamental things is that women have the babies.
Yes.
So how can we... I know we can be equal, but we can't be the same, and we have to take time out that the men don't have to, so they can carry on up their ladder while we stop for 1, 2, 3, 4 children.
Well, this is one of the big things that kind of like, one of the things I'm campaigning to do. Well, I say campaigning, I just mean tweeting in between smoking and drinking tea. Is for us to stop ever referring to childcare as a feminist issue or an issue for women. Kind of, this is how it is routinely referred to in most countries. And there couldn't be anything more obviously the concern of humanity, both men and women, than our children. We make them together. They are, you know, they are the future of our species. If we fuck this up, if women stop wanting to have children, it becomes impossible. Again, empty room, empty stage, kind of like, so that's the key thing is to just never, ever, ever allow anybody to say that this is a problem for women or a problem for feminism. And, you know, I'm just talking from like a journalistic point of view, I would make my editor, if I were the editor of the Times, I would make it so no women were ever allowed to write columns about childcare and you know, and how we would solve that problem again. I would make all the male columnists deal with that stuff instead. That's when we need to get the boys on board, you need to start talking about this stuff. So that would be I'm lucky. I've got a husband who's just amazing and kind of basically sort of gave up work to look after our kids, whilst I sat in a corner chain smoking and going feminism, feminism, feminism. So that worked out quite well for me. Hello.
Hello. The first time I heard of you, I have a daughter who lives in the UK, and she did a little work for you years ago. And she told me that you were the coolest person she had ever met.
Oh.
Catherine Ryan. I don't know if you remember her or know of her.
No, where was this? What was it?
I'm her mom. It was a few years ago.
Hello.
She's a stand-up comedian in the UK.
Oh,
Anyway.
God, Catherine Ryan, she lives around the corner from me, yes.
Yeah, in
No,
Crouch
she's
End.
awesome. Oh, my God.
I'm Kath Bum's mom.
Hello.
I follow you on Twitter. I really enjoyed Nancy. And the first time I read any of your work was before you really blew up in North America. And I was in the UK, and you were introduced to me, your first book, through my daughter. And you were introduced as the coolest woman she had ever met. And I have 3 daughters, and I just want to say I'm really thrilled to see someone who is talking about feminism, because I tried to teach my daughter about some of the feminism ideas that I had, and one of them being no man is better than the wrong man.
Yes.
And they always thought that I was insane. So thank you for bringing this to the forefront again for young people. And also, you had a contest with Tim Minchin a while ago about who got to spend time in the pub with you.
Yes.
And I love Tim Minchin too.
Oh, he's
But
lovely.
if I could ever spend time in a pub with you, I would totally vote for that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I can tell you have raised a brilliant feminist daughter. Kath Ryan's a comedian in the UK who's absolutely fucking brilliant. And we worked on a TV show together. And I have to say, and we were the only 2 women on it, and I was in charge of the show. And I tried to tell the boys what the brief was for this TV show, which is that we're not going to be horrible to anyone. This is going to be a feminist TV show where we're never horrible to anybody. We just kind of boggle at things instead. But there's no bitchiness, no snark. And the men just didn't get it. And Kath was the only one who got it. It was the only one who was really funny. She was just, you have raised a beautiful daughter. And Tim Minchin is a lovely, lovely man, and I'm still kind of recovering from the hangover that I got from drinking with him 2 weeks ago, where, as I always do, I dragged him over to the piano and made him do the entire score from Jesus Christ Superstar, and I've got to stop doing that. It's not cool. I need to stop that. Hello.
And so I guess anyone, but especially any woman who is outspoken and a public figure, faces a lot of criticism, and you talked a little bit about not giving a shit, but I wanted to ask you about differentiating between valid criticism and the bullshit that gets thrown at you, and how do you figure out, where to have empathy and where to learn versus where somebody's just trying to pull you off your podium?
Oh yeah, no, I've learned a huge amount, the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life, literally, that didn't involve having a baby stuck in my cervix. Was that I got accused of being racist on Twitter. I interviewed Lena Dunham, and I didn't know that in the US, I don't know to what extent this was, but there have been criticisms that she was racist because she didn't have anyone of color in her show. And I just got a load of people who were very angry about Lena Dunham. I was tweeting about, I've interviewed her, the feature's in the Times tomorrow, hurrah, you're all going to love Lena Dunham. And some very angry people just kind of went, well, I hope you've talked to her about how she's so fucking racist, kind of like, I just really hope you've addressed this issue. And I just never had anybody talk to me like that on Twitter before. And I was just kind of like, and I'd had a bad day, and I couldn't believe anyone was telling me how to do my job. So I was just like, and so I just went, no, because I don't give a fucking shit. This is just a ridiculous, spurious thing. If you want to talk about racism in the entertainment industry, talk about the commissioners. Talk about the people who have power, who need to be going out there and finding talent of all different colours of religions and sexuality, and giving those people the power to run shows and the budgets to run shows. But having a go at the artists at the very end of this thing, who've got their own struggle and trying to do their own shit and have got their own agendas, completely misunderstands how the whole thing works. Obviously, I didn't put all of that in a tweet, 'cause you've only got 140 characters. So then there was this huge thing about kind of like that people thought that I was going, I don't give a shit about representation of people of color in the entertainment industry, which is so, I mean, anything I've ever written is about equality and freedom and choice and expanding the lexicon and anyway. So that was horrible, but it meant that, so when you're accused of that, you're kind of like, oh my God, am I? Have I never known this? Is this bad? Kind of like, do I need to go and read more about this? I need to go and find out more about this and find out if I am secretly racist and I've been lying to myself. So I just went and followed every single activist that I could find, read a shit ton of blogs, read a shit ton of fucking novels, and it did educate me. You know, I did learn an enormous amount about it, kind of, you know, that I can find really constructive and I can advise other people, and that it's taught me and it educated me about these issues. So it was good. It was the most horrible way to do it, like kind of, you know, I was, you know, I mean, I was getting death threats and I was crying and weeping and suicidal and depressed, and I would have these voices in my head, and it was horrible. So it's not the best way to educate someone. I would generally just go, mate. Kind of, there are the better ways to educate people than that, but I used it as a learning experience. I've watched a lot of Oprah Winfrey. I know this is what you do. You use it as a learning experience, and I grew as a person. And so it was useful, but I would never want to educate someone like that because, you know, someone who is mentally more fragile than me, I think might have turned their internet off and never gone back online again. So it was a learning experience, but a really horrible one. Much like giving birth to children was. I learned to use contraception after that. Hello.
Well, hello. I want to ask another horrible question.
Oh, it's not maths again, is it?
It's easy. I love your courage. I love your bravery. I love seeing your stomach. That was really amazing. Have you ever gone too far? What have you done that you wish you could take back? Or what have you written or said that you regret?
Oh God! Well, I mean, literally nothing. Like, kind of, you know, I tried to be a very kind person. Other than the aforementioned tweet where I just went, "I don't give a shit" with absolutely no context at all, which was a bad thing. Other than that, nothing. Because everything I've ever said is just about me. I've never given away anyone else's secrets or broken anyone else's confidence. I've never put anyone else down. I've always tried to encourage other people. Everything I say isn't done to shock or to be controversial. It's to just go, this is the normal stuff. We need to be able to talk about this stuff. It's weird that we're not. I'm kind of freaked out that we're not talking about this now, given it's 2014. This is bizarre. So, no, I really don't regret, you know. I've tried to be a good lady.
Don't we all have secrets?
Wow. Are you my mom? This is really weird. No, I really have forgotten any secrets. Other than when I was 11, I used to sometimes wipe my bum on a towel instead of toilet paper because it felt more luxurious. But other than that, I have no secrets.
And now you no longer have that one either.
No. Whoa, that was heavy. That was like, whoa.
Hello. I'm feeling quite nervous to ask this in front of a room of peers of women. And it's amazing that you're here. So thank you for coming to Toronto. There is currently a war going on between sex workers and the government.
Yes.
And it's preventing from keeping women safe. It is endangering women.
You're right.
And I'd like to know how you can win this with humor and not with anger.
Sweetheart, thank you. This is something I've written quite a lot about because I just think you just have to look at this with calm common sense. I just think that if we invented sex work now, we wouldn't make it illegal. We just wouldn't prosecute it. You know, this is a world where you can have, you know, your bumhole bleached, you know, by a beautician in order to change the colour of it. You know, so, you know, this is a world where, you know, we devolve the care of our very tiny babies and our dying elderly to strangers who are committing these incredibly intimate acts and taking care of them. This is a world where we go to talk to therapists about the most extreme thoughts that we have, and again, leave ourselves completely vulnerable. Kind of like in human interaction, we do intimate things. You know, this is a world of intimate things where we accept that we do intimate things in exchange for money. And I cannot see how sex work is any different. If you look at the legislation that's needed to run a brothel, for instance, it's exactly the same health and safety regulations that you have to run a public swimming pool. That's the hygiene levels that you need. It's exactly the same things. So women being able to put together carefully. I don't like the sacrificial aspect of illegal sex work. This idea that kind of we leave girls to go and work on the outskirts of cities. This is what we used to do in medieval times, where we'd leave sacrifices on the outskirts of villages in the woods for like creatures and bandits to come and take them. This idea that women are driven out of the safe places and left at the edges of towns, and they are the girls that get murdered. They are kind of on the news in our country whenever kind of there's a murder. It's kind of like, and she was a sex worker, and you can hear people kind of sighing and go, okay, well those are the girls that get murdered. That's what happens to those girls. Those are the girls we leave outside. They're not the ones that we protect. And all of our fucked upness about sex work just stems from a really understandable historical problems with biology, that kind of, there had to be women who you had sex with, and then the ones that you kept virginal, that were the breeding stock, that, that kept the matrilineal line intact and passed on the money and the name. And so you had to separate these two things out. The fucked upness about female sexuality comes from an era where we didn't have antibiotics and we didn't have contraception. And so we had to separate these two girls out. We had to split sexual women out from kind of reproductive pure women. This day and age, we don't think that now. And if we do, we need to take a good, hard fucking look at ourselves. I think we're completely reconciled to the idea that women can have, we don't need to have women that are for sex and women that are not for sex. These are people that we need to protect. These are people who should be equal and not left in dangerous dark corners to be picked off by the worst people. These are people that could be paying tax in our country, that could be treated as in the same way that we treat people who give any other kind of care or any other kind of service in a consenting way that we have in any other industry. And thank you for asking me that question.
Thank you for saying that loudly. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a message that we hear often associated with motherhood, and that is that women don't feel like they've truly come into their womanhood until they've become mothers. You are a mother of two, and yet you wrote in How to Be a Woman that if you want to know what's in motherhood for you as a woman, then in truth, it's nothing you couldn't get from reading the 100 greatest books in human history. And then you go on to talk about what you learn from books. And then at the very end, you say, no one has ever claimed for a moment that childless men have missed out on a vital aspect of their existence and were the poorer and crippled by it. How do you answer to the people who say that a woman is not truly a woman until they've become a mother? And how then do you temper that message to those people who have found value in becoming a mother?
Well, that's why I wrote those two chapters. The first one is why you shouldn't have children. I can't remember which way around I did it, actually. One of them is why you should have children. The other one is why you shouldn't have children. Because I learned an enormous amount from motherhood, mainly to use contraception. But, going through that amount of pain, giving that amount of care, giving that amount of love, is an enormously learning experience. But the idea that that's the only way, there's this idea that women don't become properly grown up. They don't become kind of like the elders until they've had children, which is something we don't attach to men at all. And just the idea that, that through, I give the full list of the things that you could do that would give you the equal experience of having had children, which I truly believe. I wrote that chapter for my sister Kaz, who from the age of 11 has been absolutely strict on the fact that she will never have children. Indeed, she worked out that she would happily trade in her womb and ovaries for lungs because she intended to start smoking later on, and she would she could have 2 pairs of lungs instead of a womb and ovaries. That would be great for her. She was kind of like, I'll do a swap if you want. It's just very, it's really, it's just, poor fucking Jennifer Aniston, kind of still just being asked every week, are you pregnant yet? If I was Jennifer Aniston's manager, I would start a Jennifer Aniston's womb account on Twitter, and I would every day just post a Twitter update, still empty, none of your fucking business. Still empty, none of your fucking business. This obsession with getting Jennifer Aniston pregnant is weird. It's like we're some kind of medieval feudal lord, just kind of like, when will she be with child? You know what? I'm perfectly fine with Rachel Green from Friends not having a kid. I think we can all chill on that one. Let's leave it there. So yes, no. Those 2 chapters are there because motherhood is an incredible and astonishing thing, but so are a million other things as well. And you can live an absolutely astonishing life without having had kids. Batman didn't have a baby.
Hi, Caitlin. So first, just an observation. Like, I loved all the age groups that I'm seeing in this room today. It really is remarkable what you've been able to pull together. You mentioned that you're 39, so my first question is, I'm wondering what you're going to do for your 40th birthday. And it's tied to the idea, similar to Jennifer Aniston, that at each age as we go through as women, there seems to be more things, different things that we have to kick off, right? And change and move forward and change for the next generation that's coming. So maybe some of your thoughts on the idea of women having to handle age so much differently than men do.
I just like work. I'm not scared of work. Like, kind of, clearly is quite difficult to be a woman. And, you know, if you give me a huge pile of injustices, I'll just slowly and methodically work my way through them. And if I get older and that pile gets bigger, I'll just keep on shoveling through the shit. Kind of like, you know, that's what we have to do. We have to be resigned to it. But, you know, there's definitely never been a better time to be a woman. You know, we are not getting burnt at the stake. You know, kind of, you know, we have Lycra, we have Batiste dry shampoo, we have Benedict Cumberbatch, you know, we have the new Robin album to look forward to. It's all gravy, really, compared to the, you know, 1,000 years ago. For my birthday, I'm very slowly trying to get the authentic Ghostbusters uniform together. There's a sort of there's a piece of there's an army jumpsuit that they've now discontinued, but which I had to buy for $300 from a warehouse in Alabama. And I'm now going to treat myself this birthday to the knee pads and elbow pads. And then next year will be the utility belt, and then I intend to get an unlicensed nuclear accelerator for my back. And then I will be Bill Murray, and all my dreams will be true.
So sorry, we'll have these last two, and then, okay, all right, last three. So I'm sorry, we're going to cut the line off here, because then we're going to sign it. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I loved your book, and I specifically bought it for my sister when she was struggling. She was unsure about herself, men, all that stuff. So it really helped her, and it also helped me because I was very hesitant of the word feminist. And my sister tried to bring me around to it, and your book definitely did that. And she loved the fact that it brought her feminism back as well. And the reason I was hesitant was because of the whole feminazi term that goes around. I'm wondering what your opinion is about that.
I just love the internet's ability to just stick the word Nazi onto anything. just extraordinary. I don't know, I mean, just anything like that, you just have to ignore it. These are just silly boys. I mean, the thing is as well that, like, you know, you're going to be having so much fun being a cool feminazi than they're going to have sitting there shouting at feminazis. You know, you're going to be off with a bunch of girlfriends planning the revolution. Like, you know, they're sitting there at home kind of cry-wanking and typing with one hand. It's like kind of, you've already won, baby, you know? it's fine. Enjoy the extra chromosome, it's all good.
Thank you.
So I often prescribe your chapter on abortion and how to be a woman to when I need an example of an abortion story, because there are so few, and they all seem to fall within this narrative of a good, compassionate abortion. The woman was raped, or there was incest, or a fetal abnormality, something along those lines. And it's understandable because it is so stigmatized and because there have been so many violent instances of anti-choice tactics in the past. But I was wondering if you could discuss how we can move past that and how we can convince more people to share their stories and make that a less stigmatized choice for women.
Well, I mean, I only wrote that chapter because another woman shared her story. There's a brilliant journalist in the UK called Zoe Williams who's just writing her first book, and she wrote a piece where she wrote about her abortion and just went, and the first paragraph was that. She just went, every account I've ever read of an abortion always starts with, well, it was a very difficult choice, and, you know, the after effects will haunt me forever. And she went, that just isn't what happened with me. Like, kind of, it was a very easy decision because I knew whether I did or didn't want to be a mother again, because I know what a big job that is, and I knew I couldn't do it. And I don't feel bad about it because I know it was exactly the right choice. And I was just like, I'd never read anything like that. So that allowed me to write an entire chapter about it. And I just hope, I mean, I hope by writing that, other people can write their stories. It would be amazing if you could have a blog where women could tell their stories about how it worked out great for them. Because all you do generally see is the really bad stories. And as the years have gone on, I've kind of got more perspective on this. Like, it was when I finally only put two and two together recently. Like, if you look at the stats on birth rates since the introduction of contraception in the first world, it immediately shears off. Before the proper introduction of contraception in the first world, average family size is like 4, 5, 6 kids. As soon as reliable contraception is brought in, all women have 2 or less children. They immediately have much smaller, and that is their choice. As soon as they have a choice and they can do it, women will almost certainly always choose to have smaller families, manageable families. And suddenly you just get this massive historical perspective of women who didn't have access to contraception and abortion and to plan their lives, where they're basically becoming pregnant against their will. To have sex once can mean that you're pregnant, and then you're pregnant again, and you're pregnant again. These women are just reproducing themselves into the ground. They're falling to pieces. They're exhausted. The mortality rates in childbirth are just horrific. And this was what happened before women, the beautiful thing of technology allowed us to become free. And, it is such an important right to protect because it could so easily slide back to the point where women are once again reproducing themselves into the ground with no traction over their own lives I have to say, it's becoming a mother that has made me realize how important it is that women choose when they want to be a mother, because that is a big fucking job. Like, people thought I was trying to be controversial or in some way unholy by going, it was by being a mother that made me realize how important abortion is. But it's the simple truth that 9 times out of 10, when something bad is happening in this world, when someone is hurting someone, when some violence breaks out, when there's some misunderstanding going on, the crimes are committed by people who were not brought up properly, who were not loved, who did not have the energy and time and care that needs to be put into making a human being safe and functional and safe to place around other people, and who will go through life, having a productive life rather than, being a ticking time bomb. And that's why, you can't ever go into that job half-assed. You might get away with it, but, I'm not a gambling person. I knew after 2 I was too tired to know that I would make a third perfect, strong, functioning, healthy person. I could have just skimped on that, and that would have been my third bad, unhappy kid going out there and causing all these problems. So, it has an economic benefit to our country. It has a social benefit to our country. And again, as this is a culture formed by feminism, this is a culture formed by abortion. The abortion rates stay pretty much constant in countries whether it's illegal or illegal. Half the abortions that happen in the world are illegal, half are legal. So when you say you're going to outlaw abortion, you're not outlawing abortion, you're outlawing safe, legal abortion. These abortions will happen anyway. You're just putting women's lives at risk if you make them illegal. This is a society formed by abortion. It always has been and it always will be. Whenever women get that chance, they will take that choice because this is what they choose. They choose small families. They choose being able to do those 2 jobs properly and then move on with their lives. So thank you for that question.
I just want to say the chapter about the big knickers was probably the funniest thing I've ever read in my life. I had to put the book and zip it up, and I just couldn't read it. I was on the train at the time. I was bawling my eyes out. But I really just wanted to know what your reaction was to that recent headline in the Telegraph of the UK when they, I think the heading was "Mother of 3 heads up the BBC," and how are we ever going to get past that kind of bullshit?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and it is bullshit. Well, the great thing about that, so this is for those who didn't see it, the new chairman of the BBC is a woman, and the headline was "Mother of 3 heads up the BBC," whereas, have you ever seen a headline that goes "Father of 2, takes over Exxon"? That just doesn't happen. Well, I mean, the great news is that kind of like, I don't know if even 2 years ago there would have been the outcry about that there was. Everybody just laughed at the Telegraph, and the Telegraph looked like dicks. That's kind of, it was just kind of, everyone went, this was your headline? Is this a paper run by children and animals? This is kind of, is everyone in your office 300 years old going, oh, young fillies, they're heading up the BBC. Oh. Monocle falls out. So yeah, that's a beautiful, and it's a lovely last question to ask them, because you know what the feminism was in that thing? Everyone fucking laughed at them. They looked like a bunch of pricks. There are a load of really funny blogs written about it, and they won't do that again. And so no one had to march, no legislation had to be published, just a load of women laughed at them, and it stopped. That's... Woo!
All right.
I want to thank the...
Well, listen, Caitlin, we can't thank you enough for coming. We are going to put you to work still, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask everybody to just sort of sit tight and let her make her way to the back where she will be signing things. Do not mob her. Do not mob her. On her way back, she will speak to you when you get in line. Thank you all so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you both.